So listeners, welcome to yet another explosive episode of Courage Talks. Special guest today is Ashiish Patil. Ashiish has, interestingly enough, for Courage Talk audience, spent more than 3 decades in the entertainment industry. He's produced films, he's directed, he's acted, he's been a brand manager for some of the top film stars. He's authored a couple of books. Is there anything which you've not done, Ashiish?
No, thank you so much, man. You're being too kind, Hdl, with an introduction like that. There's full performance anxiety. I can't wait to hear what I have to say. So, thank you. The check is in the mail. And I haven't done any acting, by the way. So,
okay, I saw a music video
with me. No,
must be an errata there. Great. We know what you are today, right? I think, and obviously it's taken a long time for you to reach where you have, but a lot of people might not know the childhood, the background, right? So why don't you just take us back to memory lane, your growing up days? Were you naughty as a child, or were you more the shy types, and someone would have found it very difficult to realize what you become today?
Wow. Flashback, man. I feel really old. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hdl. Well, I think grew up in a very regular, lower middle class setting. I'm half Maharashtrian, that's the Patil, and I'm half Gujarati. So parents had a love marriage, and grew up in a very tiny, conservative place. It was one of those very chawl type setups, 21 apartments on one floor, that kind of thing. And in families like that, privacy is just a rumor that doesn't exist. It's like a 250 square feet apartment, 250 square feet mein 4 log rehte hain. Everyone's got access to everything across the whole floor and all of that. Or I think कमी नहीं थी, कोई कमी नहीं थी, but ज़्यादा की चाह जरूर थी. Let me put it that way. Right. So there was always that desire for, more. But of course, our dunya, middle class लोगों के सपने भी middle class होते हैं. So you couldn't even imagine that और बड़ा क्या होगा. Like definition of rich in school. I also went to practically a vernacular medium school. So even your interpretation of wealth is किसी के पापा स्कूटर पे आते हैं. It's like, अरे वाह यार, अरे इनकी स्कूटर की तो साइड कार भी है. वाह, बताओ क्या बात है. For the longest time, I thought, when someone used to say we were abroad for a holiday, I thought abroad is a place. Clearly my geography sucked. Abroad गए थे, वो कहाँ है यार? So all of that, right? So I think in my boards, in my 10th, is where you take those private classes. And I went to a class like that. And you know how it is? You also get put in a school as a function of proximity. कि घर के पास है इसे यहीं भेज दो. 5 रुपए की फीस है हर महीने की, ये पढ़ लेगा यहाँ पे. But for classes, for 10th, we went to one of those, board training where you suddenly had a bunch of these kids from other fancier English medium setups, etc. And it's like, holy shit, these guys have 2 cars. One of them, and they refer to badi gaadi, choti gaadi, choti gaadi leke jayenge. Someone has a house which is so big that they have an operator at home. And I'm like, holy shit, but it kind of blew my mind, So I think that's where your mind kind of gets opened up to say, aur kya kar sakte? So how do I get that ज़्यादा की चाह, not in terms of material wealth, there is a world out there. You want to get out there. I think that's essentially, but otherwise it was a very loving childhood. It was, I don't think I was a naughty kid. I was a fairly shy kid. I was fairly, and it may not seem so now, but I still am. I have a lot of acquaintances, Hdl, but I have very, very few friends. मतलब गिन के एक हाथ की उंगलियों पे मैं गिन पाऊंगा how many people I can really talk to, etc. But I think, so my best friends were my books. So, and that, because that you can do solo. I was never a sporty kid, but books, reading, writing, those were my jam. And I think I was always fairly imaginative. So my pretend play used to be elaborate. And it was really amusing because even if I'm playing with figurines, I would be making up stories and creating screenplays and stories. And there would be people who would come to just listen to me act there, or, with figurines. They're like, Acha, they're enjoying this shit? Cool. So I think those are the things that kind of came to me very naturally. And I think I was very fortunate that I could lean into that as a career. That you get to tell stories for a living, और उसके कोई पैसे भी दे देता है. वाह, किसी को बोलना मत नजर लग जाएगी. So it was almost that. But weirdly, there's this whole middle, there's this 2 words with Maharashtrians, which I think have held the entire Maharashtrian community behind. It's a phrase called 𝗬𝗀𝗅𝗧𝗏. 𝗬𝗀𝗅𝗧𝗏 is basically loosely translated, क्या ज़रूरत है? And I think that's the whole middle class risk aversion, especially in Maharashtrian. So there's a reason why, at least in Gujaratis and all of that, there is a certain amount of risk appetite that start a business, be self-employed. Maharashtrians want a government job, not even a regular job, government job. Pension milegi retire ho gaye to. Mediclaim is taken care of. All of that shit. Like dad was in a scheduled bank, Chacha was in like MTNL. So like that whole risk aversion of nahi yaar, service karna hai. That kind of thing. And heck, I almost became a chartered accountant. And I would have slit my wrists. And I would have taken a few companies down with myself. So fortunately, just at the right time, मेरी life में एक rancho, 3 Idiots वाला rancho आ गया मेरे life में. और उसने life और कुछ कंपनियों के P&L बचा लिए. कि भाई तू CA मत बनना, तू मर जाएगा. And I think a very, very dear friend in college. He runs the international business and marcom for 𝗕𝗿. Very dear friend. He and I actually ran an ad agency for a while in college. 𝗕𝗿, and he literally saved my life. And he's the one who managed to convince my parents to talk them out of me. Like I cleared my entrance and signed up for my articles. And literally one day before joining, I was like, shit, I can't do this. But there was always this thing of, you can't be a writer for a living. So did the sensible thing, went to business school. Still wanted to be close to creative. So the only things in those days when you were starting out your career were in creative or advertising. Because movies, television was the wild, wild west. You had no access, you had no idea. So advertising still had some structure. So wahi gaye. And that slowly one thing led to another. And strangely, each thing has been a very, like in hindsight, wo rear view mein vision 2020 hota hai na, pehle pata nahi hota ki aise banne wala hai. But it all kind of added up. I can see it as a very, it seems like a very logical progression. Ki likhai se shuru kiya, strategy kari advertising mein. From pure advertising went into marketing, then switched to creative and content, then ran P&L, had run television, so I could now pivot into long form feature films. And then digital was a logical extension. And now paise nahi the, so brands paid for it. So then branded content became the tool and became then the USP. So it all kind of came together. And then storytelling across different formats. So be it television, be it a book, be it a series, be it a music video. It all kind of came together. But all of these building blocks kind of fell into place from bachpan. And I would say bachpan mein, I think I guess वो storytelling या कहानी सुनाना कोई film school से नहीं सीखा. I think वो घर पे सीखा. I think it came from, I would say, my nani. We called her Ba, my mom's mom, and she got married at age 16, right? And 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗀, and she couldn't read or write. तो वो आटे में, आटा गूंदते हुए वहां पे उन्होंने आटे में drawing कर करके उन्होंने signature करना सीखा. Because she was a partner in her dad's firm, and she had a family of she had 13 kids. Like clearly, my granddad kept her very busy. Like, dude, what's up with you? And that's excluding the 5 who died. Because in those days, child mortality rates.
Excluding the 5 who died.
Excluding the 5 who died. Right? It's 13 kids, man. Like, holy shit, bro. Do you do anything else? Like, or is that all you do? So, and she could run a family of 13 kids using stories. And उनकी कहानियां जो होती थी ना, they were like full performance. मतलब voice change करती थी, sound effects, thap, doom. And that's what also came to my mom. And I realized very early कि यार ये रोना धोना ना कोई नहीं सुनता है, लेकिन कहानी सब सुनते हैं. And whether it's putting your kids to sleep, जहाँ लोरी सुना के या कहानी सुना के सुला रहे हो, or telling a story and stopping a fight, or convincing people to change their minds.
Right.
Joint families and those large families are complicated. And she ran it that way. And that's what I think also gave me an early insight into कि यार this storytelling ना, ये career skill नहीं है, ये life skill है. And you realize you need it everywhere. Whether, it's a first date, whether you're fundraising, whether you're pitching for business or selling a campaign, or whether you're at a college reunion or whether a family dinner. You get good at stories, you get good at life. So I think ये inherently मुझे मजा आता था. And I was enjoying that. And again, I also, it's just something you discovered that I was doing this natural pretend play. Or I remember this crazy incident in school. I must have been, I don't know, I think 11. There was this elocution contest where I was doing a speech on, I was in a Parsi school. So I was in this 𝗷𝗿𝗵𝗆 ka kuch to bhi aisa speech dena tha. And there was one of my classmates who was dressed as a statue of 𝗷𝗿𝗵𝗆. So it's stage mein bechara यूं खड़ा है, and it's a high stakes performance because उन पारसी के सारे ट्रस्टी आए हुए. So we are on stage and it's almost like उसकी आत्मा बदल गई, तो मैं स्टैच्यू बन गया. I forgot my entire spiel on stage. I'm like, holy shit. So it's almost like वो जो रट्टा मार के गए हो आप स्पीच का, 𝗷𝗿𝗵𝗆𝗺 was born so so जमशेदपुर फलाना ढिमका ना, वो पूरा मेमोरी से इवेपोरेट हो गया, वो रिसाइकिल बिन से भी डिलीट हो गया. Cache memory, everything gone. So I'm like, oh fuck. अब क्या करूं? And I realized that what felt like 30 minutes was actually just 30 seconds, but it feels like a very long time on stage. But then I realized that, the people in the audience, the students over there, know far less about 𝗑𝗏𝗖 than I do.
Of course.
So who the fuck knows? I started making shit up. So I started making shit about कि इन्होंने 𝗑𝗏𝗵 invent किया. He was fighting terrorists. It's some actually, I was making this shit up. I was like, किसको पता है? So I started, and it was a super hit. So people are laughing, clapping. The guy who's playing statue, he's also like, fuck, wow, really? I did this? I'm like, this is great. So I was having a blast. And I mean, it was so much fun. And there were massive claps, and I won that contest. And then, of course, the principal, Mr. Nariman Palkhiwala, called me later. He was very fond of me. So he called me saying, Dikra, stories make the world go round. You did a great job. This is what you should do. But history में कभी मत घुसना. वो तुझे नहीं आती. So I said, हाँ sir, नहीं करूँगा. So I think that's what worked. Yeah, that was fun. I think so. Like I said, I'm lucky that I think the formative years helped build that base for storytelling, the love for storytelling, possibly some skills for storytelling, and I get to do that for a living. So it's great.
It's interesting to narrate a story because that's related to my next question. So the topic is Courage Talks, and the story around the podcast is my book Against All Odds, which is my dad's biography, where I narrate a lot of true incidents about my dad's growing up, where he demonstrated courage. Nothing as funny as yours, but all serious stuff. What's your definition of courage?
यार कई बार लोग ना, Hetal, I think that people look at courage through this very lens of reverence, or I don't know they look at it as a very big thing. किसी की जान बचा ली, ये, of course that's there. But I think courage in my mind is stuff that is hidden in plain sight in the smaller things. I think it's courage. It's not something. It's like character you don't display when it's convenient. It's when no one's watching. It's when no one's looking. I think those are the things I would say that to my mind are courage. Let me kind of unpack that a little more. So, for example, I think courage is doing stuff when it's not easy. And I think it's also the difference of doing versus just being. I think it's the difference between being nice and being kind. One is a little passive and the other is a lot more active in terms of, like, for example, if you don't bully someone, that's nice. But standing up to someone else who's bullying someone else when it is scary for you, that's kind.
Very good definition.
I think so. I think and that's the thing, that courage is not loud here. It's standing by your beliefs, especially when it costs you something. जब कि चुप रहना ना easy होता, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? None of my business. क्यों? And I think I would say that stuff that one has learned over a period of time. Some of it you do instinctively. Some of it now, thanks to my son's condition. My son is on the autism spectrum. And this is a community that faces a lot of discrimination, a lot of, bullying. And kids can be cruel, man. It's like far more than adults, right? Because they don't know any better. So I think standing up to that, and that's where I'm a lot more deliberate. And in autism is just, neurodivergence is just one type of difference. And today the world is so divided here. Everyone faces some kind of discrimination, चाहे वो वजन की वजह से हो, जेंडर की वजह से हो.
Forget वजन तो बाद में आता है, कपड़ों से होती है.
कपड़ों से होती है, पैसों से होती है, बाल से होती है, रेस से होती है. I mean, and the world has never been more divided. So I think and this is not just about inclusion. I think just about, especially when it's not convenient, especially when staying chup would be, when you step up. I think that's where courage, I think, वो छोटी-छोटी बातें में हर रोज यहाँ पे दिखाना जरूरी है. ना कि भाई सुनामी आ गया मैंने जाके किसी की जान बचा ली. ठीक है?
Correct. That's true.
That for me, I think, is
the moment you're waiting for an incident to demonstrate your courage, you're gone. You lost the battle before it started.
Yeah. Sorry, long answer.
So your career interestingly started with youth for MTV. I mean, programs directed for youth on MTV. आज तो ना MTV है ना youth है. The whole world has got entangled with millennials and Gen Zs. हम youth तो पता ही नहीं, youth की तो कोई पूछता ही नहीं है. Back in those days, how much of an effort it took you to really craft out programs, because no social media, no internet, no content. Only way you could know is people around you, which obviously would be a limited number. So how did the production of hits like Roadies, Splitsvilla, MTV Youth Awards. How did it all come to you? I mean, just take us behind the scenes.
I mean, I would say MTV as a channel doesn't exist anymore, but I think as a brand, it is just so ridiculously deeply embedded and imprinted. It's almost an adjective. Unplugged is a genre in itself, right? Anything acoustic is called unplugged. I think the kind of material, cultural impact that had, it became a style of promos. MTV type ka promo chahiye. Advertising that humor, that _𝗓𝗍 coolness came in over there. So I think that material impact, cultural impact of MTV was massive, and that will remain. I think what we are seeing today on the internet, the earlier manifestation of influencers was our VJs. So all of that now, short form, first happened on MTV with Fully Faltu and Bakra and Style Check and all of that. So I think both hai. And youth, I would say still, I think that's the primary audience everyone's talking to. The nomenclature may have changed from millennials to Gen Z to now Gen Alpha and all of that. And I mean, given that we're the youngest country in the world, I mean, 70% of the audience is under 30. So youth, you don't have a choice. So it is no longer, a niche. It's a mass base that everyone has to go. You have to talk to. No matter what category. चाहे आप insurance बेच रहे हो या गाड़ी बेच रहे हो या mobile phone या jeans बेच रहे हो, वो तो आपको करना ही पड़ेगा. तो वो तो है. Now coming to specifically MTV, I think at one level what helped, it's not like there was a rule book or a playbook that didn't exist. I think one went with somewhere creative is not a democracy. Ethel. It's got to be one person's vision. It's got to be so. At times you do what you believe will resonate very strongly. And of course, you find a way to keep yourself honest by surrounding you with people who are from the demographic. So I've been fortunate that, this is the largest, the bulk of my career has been servicing youth audiences. So be it MTV, be it Y Films, be it whatever else I do, and given just the fact that everyone needs to talk to this audience. So I've always been used to being the oldest guy in the room. So MTV mein jab main head karta tha, I was 32-year-old talking to 22-year-olds. Jab main Yashraj mein tha, I was the 42-year-old talking to 22-year-olds. Now I'm 52, I'm still talking to the 22-year-olds. It's of course a very different 22-year-old today. But what that did for me is it kept me honest. It kept me, these are people who will call out bullshit because they see it a mile away. They'll be like, kya bakwas kar rahe ho? Aise thodi na hota. And you're open to that. This is not one of those offices or a setup where you'll say, tum mujhe nahi bol sakte, tumhe kya pata, main boss hu. So the minute you're open to that, I think that is one thing that definitely helps. Two, you surround yourself with those people from that demographic. So, it's like gender equality pe panel discussion karo aur 5 mard baithe ho. It's a manel, not a panel. It's just stupid, right? Like you'll never have the understanding of the nuance that a woman will have. And that's the thing. If you're a bunch of old farts, youth is not just a headspace. Being youthful is different from being actually youth. Your problems, your aspirations, your stress, your anxiety is very different. For exam versus for your boss bajawing you. So I think just having those people also create the content. Tell us what is to be made, what are their fears. I think we did that. I think that really helped. And you honestly, if anyone tells you they know what's going to work, that's bullshit. किसी को नहीं पता है. जो भी तुम्हें बता रहा है कि यार ये चलेगा, वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं. But I think that came from, उसे आप courage कहो, as in balls कहो या बेवकूफी कहो. MTV took both, तो वो दोनों जरूरी है. I think the balls or guts or gote ना, वो that came from not like Roadies or one big idea. It came from, I think, what I used to call it the fuck up nursery. It was a safe space to fuck up. It was beautiful कि you could be chatting over lunch and you could have a really, like what sounds like a really ridiculous idea. I could see it on air the next day. This is before the internet. And I'll give you an example of that. All right. So I remember this is one Sunday, वो Bombay Times के दिन थे, Media Net, etc. And there used to be this talk show called Rendezvous with Simi Garewal, if you remember.
Very much.
Star World, massive, etc. So second season was launching. It was going to be big. 1 week from there, it was going to launch on a Saturday evening or Sunday evening. Sorry. So एक हफ्ते पहले Sunday, front page, half page feature on Simi Garewal and her talking about, this season is going to be big. It's going to be very different. It's going to be very different. So, and what is the difference? I'm not going to wear white. I'm going to wear off-white. Like, what? So it was calling out to me saying, "Meri le lo, meri please." All right, boss, isko to lena padega. So literally, this happens at 11 a.m. on Sunday. And this is a time when there's no mobile phones and all of that with everyone. Okay? Like next day, I go to office 11 a.m. Literally 24 hours later, I'm like, yaar, to karna padega. So like, fuck, karte na. The show was launching on Sunday. Literally in 3 days, we put a show together where we put Cyrus Sahukar in a skirt called 𝗬𝗍𝗍. There was a show like that. And in 1 week, man, we pulled off a show. All right. And we did 2-3 very the ridiculous things. All right. So distribution, used to be like channel placement in distribution. Okay. General entertainment channels are together, Zee, Colors, Star Plus. Then music channels are together, news is together, sports is together. So for Sunday, for one slot, I got them to shift the music channel MTV next to Star World.
Okay.
Okay. Uske right next to it. ये channel number 112 है, मैं 113 पे. Okay. Just for 1 hour.
Okay.
Then television, right?
It was possible to do that?
So it was possible. Because I was at a better placement. So I'm saying 1 hour shift me and shift me back. No one gives a fuck. Alright? It's so low stakes. Our English viewing, it's less than 1% of all television audience. No one give a fuck. Right? So for 1 hour, there's enough relationships to fuck. So that's one. 2, television slots, right? So there are 2 breaks in a half-hour slot. So exactly because I had studied it, कि Star World का आधे घंटे के slot 24 मिनट का content 7वें मिनट पे और 14वें मिनट पे break आए. So I said, let's design it कि अपना break will not be on the 7th minute. Ours will be on the 9th minute and on the 16th minute. So inevitably human behavior, right? कि when the break comes, you'll switch. So when you switch from Star World, you'll come to MTV. Because I'm right next to it. Right? So tuck karke. So my content will be running, I will not be in an ad. Okay, so second strategic. 3, the set looked fucking identical. Because I knew she'll not innovate. Same. So when you switched, it looked like you switched, you continued, and there's a guy in a skirt. And the show was a terrible show, but I think it worked not because people loved our show. It worked because they hated the original. Because we called out everything that's fake. So it was just so fucking ridiculous. And see, imagine they had 150 hoardings, Their first episode had Lakshmi Mittal and Hrithik Roshan. And 150 hoardings and the Star Network promoting this. I had a man in a skirt. And we destroyed that show. You could never take Simi Garewal seriously after that. You'll see it and you'll think like, darling, how are you? How does... Chal jhuti. So it's bonkers, right? Now, and again, all the kida, right? कि हमारे वो 10 लाख रुपए का number था. कि up to 10 lakhs, I can sign off. अगर 10 लाख रुपए के ऊपर गया, I need a committee. Sales का head, distribution का head, कितना revenue, कितना rating. So I used to do one जुगाड़. 9,90,000 rupees पे मैं रोक देता. My budget. If it means only 6 episodes, I will say one season is mini season. 6 episodes. तो मैं करूँगा. So I could short circuit it in 3 days. So I bana diya, and in 1 week we turned that show around and boom, it went live. It fucking exploded, man. So just fuck knows if it would have worked, not worked, but that was like a crazy ass ballsy piece of again. That's the thing, because you just don't know better. Everyone around you is like that saying, "Chal karte na." Because even if it's fuck, it goes wrong, it's okay. I've made it a safe space to fuck up. If it does well, it's great. And I think more than a show or a idea, I think the biggest courageous thing that we did over there is making it a safe space or a system where experiments were allowed, where fucking up was okay. Or aaj wo koi karta nahi hai. You're too scared of that. You're not allowing fuck ups. Like you're not taking those risks in storytelling. There's a templatized thing of चलो सुपर हीरो की पिक्चर बनाओ. अच्छा ये पिक्चर चला है सब यही बनाओ. ये सीरीज चल रही है इसी स्टार को ले लो. I think that's where you don't see innovation. That's why you don't see these things. I think that's where kind of courage came from. That's where some of these ideas came from. And I mean, there's a ton of stories on Roadies, Splitsvilla. I mean, as far as origin stories, like again, Splitsvilla happened because we were becoming a one-trick pony. So I said, no, you can't. I mean, the most dangerous thing about an idea is if it's the only one you have. I can't be just one show. You have to now. Let's bring the emotion of Roadies into romance. So the same team then came into doing Splitsvilla. So season 1 had elements of Roadies, the same host, the winners from 2 seasons, the same creators, Raghu for the twist. And then next season onwards, completely different. Very deliberate. So you created that. Even with Roadies, again, when the show started, it was a very happy show. Like season 1, Ranveer, it's a very there's no knockout. It's them, it was going to be called 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗹𝗪. Like fucking vomit on toast. Like shit. So I said, no, man, so Roadies as a word actually means something else, right? But we created lexicon to say Roadies is this, that kind of thing. It's actually about people on a road trip, etc. But the first couple of seasons were very happy, nukkad natak kind of tasks, quiz in a school, gully cricket, and gaming was becoming very big. So I said, gaming में 2 type की game चलती थी. Those first person shooter kill games or speed games. I said, चलो ये emotion इसको show में लाते. So there were some very interesting calls that we took. Some of them went really well. Some of them were very bad. I'll give you an example of that. So, for example, this season 4. Okay, so I wanted this gaming like adrenaline punch in Roadies. So journey went from 2,400 kilometers to 8,500 kilometers. So that itself is pressure. The tasks move from nukkad natak, gully cricket into adventure sports. So bungee jump and all of this shit. So it's suddenly high stakes. 3, because I always saw it like a Bollywood film. So I brought in a villain. Literally a villain. It was Gulshan Grover on season 4. This is the season that Bani came. So every time Gulshan would come, there would be a twist. Okay, Roadies, तुम्हें लगा तुम इसको वोट आउट करेंगे, लेकिन आज मैंने डिसाइड किया है कि जिसको आप सबने वोट आउट किया है, वो जो डिसाइड करे वो. So that became like a crazy ass thing. So great creative call, worked really well. And in my mind it was like I was seeing it as James Bond or like Doom. Okay? Every season a villain बदलेगा. So this season में Gulshan Grover. Great creative call, bad man. I also did a bad creative call. I put a bad boy on the audition process.
Okay.
So Mika, very talented musician, etc. But idiot. Very sweet guy, all of that. Very talented musician, but he's not fun to watch that way on a reality show. So you're like, तुम्हें Roadies बनना है. So it was just terrible. Like, oh shit, now what do I do? Fortunately, one of my producers came and saved the day. So he kind of stepped up. This was Raghu. So Raghu came in. I said, he was like rocking the auditions. I said, yaar, ye superb hai. So agle season 5, where we went abroad the first time, I replaced Gulshan Grover with Raghu. So that became the villain. So every time he came, there was a twist. And now most people didn't know that Raghu has a twin brother.
Achha.
Rajiv.
Yeah.
और राजीव को बाल है. मैंने उसको इमोशनली ब्लैकमेल किया सिंह भाई मुंडवाने पड़ेंगे तुझे. You will have to. इसे सर क्या कर रहे हो? मेरा बेटा मुझे चाचू बुला रहा है. सर कोई बात नहीं. जब तक तेरी बीवी गलती ना करे, it's okay. So I got him to shave his head, and it was fucking freaky. So season 6, double the twists. Raghu and Rajiv as the double villains. Season 7, which is what I set up and I left, is Irfan Khan was the villain. So I think that, for example, were the kind of things that we did. I mean, of course, MTV is just a ton of these examples or ideas, be it Roadies or Splitsvilla or Bakra Din or 𝗬𝗏𝗍𝗵 as a film series. So all of those things, or the music awards, there's a lot of that. But I think making it a safe space to fuck up and quickly try out a bunch of things which may work, which may not work, I think is what helped.
But do you think in hindsight, you did a lot on gut and instinct because you knew that the audience didn't know any better? Now, today the scenario is very different because the audience is spoiled for choice. Do you think such gutsy decisions would work even today? Or are
I think all the more. No, I think all the more, Ithal, I think it's very... I think you have to... There was a lovely quote I'd heard from, if I remember right, from 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 of Netflix. That you use data to pick stock and gut to pick your partner. And it's true. Because audience it's like those those strange 𝗕𝗅 eating women in focus group discussions. Ad कैसी लगी? हाँ मजा नहीं आया. चुप. तुम्हें क्या पता है गधी? Nonsense. That Meenakshi from Madurai has killed so many good ideas in advertising. It's stupid, right? So I mean, absolutely not. So I think in all the more, I think what worked for MTV also, no, is that because if you're just doing what will data tell you? It's also what AI is doing, right? It's just moving it to the fucking average. What everyone's doing. It goes to the safest middle ground. That's not where innovation happens. That happens at the edges. So you've got to lean into that. You've got to do that. I think why MTV worked is because, we were catching the wave before it hit the shore. The reason MTV has shut down is exactly that. They stopped innovating. Abhi season 37 of Roadies of Splitsvilla chal raha hai. Band karo yaar. I mean, you've not rewired that format. It's not going to work. So I think all the more now, especially because there's so much clutter. और ऐसा नहीं है कि कभी clutter नहीं था. Formats अलग थे. कभी ऑर्कुट था, चाहे स्नैपचैट ना हो, कभी मोबाइल फोन नहीं हो तो कुछ और था, so there was a ton of those things which always existed, and I think you definitely do need to lean into. I think what also happens is not just gut in terms of मुझे लगता है ये करना चाहिए. I think a lot of that gut is also trained on a lot of experience, a lot of actual physical spending time of observing, of kind of absorbing shit that you see around. And I'll give you another example of that, right? like there's a band that I created called the Six Pack Band. It's India's first transgender band. I did that for Unilever a few years back, right? And I mean, it's stuff that's sitting in plain sight around all of us. Any traffic light, there will be someone from the Hijra community will come and you see that all around you. It's not something that's and there are reactions where either you'll roll up a window or you'll cringe, or you've seen it in Bollywood where they're made it turn into a gag, or you'll ignore it. And I saw this happening. It's almost you start kind of mapping those trends. So for example, this is sometime around 2015, 2016, about 10 years back, right? So there, this whole narrative around LGBTQ was very different. It wasn't as prevalent, but I saw that happening. Okay, 377 had just been abolished. In the US, gay marriages were just legalized. Obama was the first president who appeared on the cover of a gay magazine. The show called Transparent picked up all the Golden Globes and Emmys. Laverne Cox of Orange is the New Black was on the cover of Time magazine as among the 100 most influential people in the world. So all of these were starting to happen. Caitlyn Jenner was on Forbes. So all of those pieces, I said, ये कुछ हो रहा है. और this is 𝗕𝗍𝗍, this is right under our noses, this is happening. And this is such a musical community. How come no one's thought of this before? So let's stitch this together, use music, and get this out there. So I think it's also, obviously Unilever, you can imagine, very data, very Excel sheet driven even then, right? And of course still is. I must have done 82 presentations, I kid you not, across the entire system, UK, Asia Pacific, with the media team, to kind of convince them to sell the idea that we're going to handle it sensitively, but I think it's going to explode. There's nothing like this in the world. It's waiting to happen. Thematically, I see a stitch. If you are breaking social stigma one cup of tea at a time, I'm doing it one song at a time, I see a fit. And hold their hand and say, I'll make it safer for you. I'm going to do a song around tea. How tea doesn't discriminate. Tea leaves, the color of milk, the color of is the same for everyone. So I'll bring that in. Let's do a chai song. So all of those things become easier, So that's how but it's come from gut. But the gut has been trained on experience, on observing the environment. And then what happens is, then you use that to becho, na? It's advertising mein kya karte the? Idea crack ho gaya, abhi strategy banao. Ye strategy tha, isliye idea hai. Fact? Idea crack kiya. But, I'm being facetious, but that idea has actually come from the experience. It has come from that.
So from managing shows, you ended up managing stars. And when it comes to talent management and managing people like Ranveer, Anushka, Ayushmann, the question I have is, when I talk about time management, my slogan is, time management is more about management than time. Is talent management more about talent than management?
I think everything is about talent. Everything. Finally, everything is about people. About talent, celebrity hai, aapka employee hai, aapka bachcha hai. Everything is that, yeah. Baki ye management kya hai? This is bullshit. That's just a bullshit business jargon word, frankly.
Yeah. Once you've got a strong hold on the persona or the person, then management is easy. Otherwise, you can always blame the management aspect. कि time नहीं है, dates नहीं है, schedule नहीं match हो रहा है, and you can come up with a lot of list of excuses just because you couldn't understand the persona that you are supposed to manage.
People see through that bullshit, यार, Hetal. और ये Bollywood में bullshit ये बहुत होता है ना कि date नहीं है, ये नहीं. तो वो पता है. And I think what worked for me at least. That's why my relationships are. I mean, all my business is repeat business, and these are relationships for 30 years. Is because ये आदमी झूठ नहीं बोलेगा. अगर नहीं होगा, I'll tell you. यार इसको नहीं करना है, या फिर ये नहीं जम रहा है. There'll be no bullshit reason. And I think even with artists, that bro, like Ayushmann wanted to pivot to being an action star. Pariniti wanted to be 𝗧𝗹𝗍 𝗕𝗍. I said, नहीं होगा. गलत है. ये नहीं होगा. भूल जा. Focus. Play off your strengths. Lean in on what high concept sex comedy, which is where Bala, Vicky Donor, which is where he came. So leaning into Dum Laga Ke Haisha and doubling down on Badhai Ho, all of this came from there, from Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui. I think they were very deliberate choices. That don't try to be the next Katrina. Be the new Pariniti Chopra. You are the girl next door. This is what makes you you. This is what makes you unique. Lean into that. You have an extra edge of being a singer as well. Lean into that. Don't try to be something. It makes no fucking sense. So I think it's just that. Even with artists and some of them are just incredible. Like Ranveer, I managed him for a sizable amount of time. I just shot a film with him. The new Chinks film, Ranveer, that 𝗙𝗍𝗍𝗵𝗍, Bobby Deol, Sri Leela. So I've written and produced that. So it's a beast of it's an 8.5-minute commercial. It's crazy, right? But we've done that for the last 11 years. So again, it came from there. कि यार ये advertising, and this was at a time 11 years back. जब कोई रणवीर को touch नहीं कर रहा था. You know, और तो so leaning into his persona, leaning into, you know, a content play of Ranveer Singh. So it came from there. And so you lean into that. कि तुझे normal Coke, Pepsi touch नहीं कर रहा है ना, हम अलग जाते हैं. So don't try to chase that. So we did like the three most unlikely first three endorsement deals, which no one was touching. Condoms is one of his first few endorsements. Durex was like a very ballsy category to go after, but for Ranveer, they said fucking lean in. There'll be enough people who say ये नहीं करना है, इसका ये बहुत edgy है, but there'll be enough brands who say fuck damn cool. Two, another crazy category, चड्डी, और वो भी not like Calvin Klein, रूपा चड्डी, you know. So रूपा चड्डी, and we made it cool.
रूपा चड्डी पहनोगे तो रूपा क्या पहनेगी?
Right? So I said fuck, let's do. ये आराम का मामला है. So we did that. So we did रूपा चड्डी, and we did jeans. So I think these were three that were like very, it kind of defined his, you know, talent, persona, how he leans into, how he brings his persona, and no artist was doing that. You know, so I think that's, and then it took off. Then it exploded. Then everyone from Thumbs Up to Pepsi to all these fuckers started coming. Jack and Joe, it came from that. I think that's also trust you build over a period of time. And see, fortunately, I think, or fortunately or unfortunately or whatever, I think in the talent business, my scars are still fresh. But, you know, I think most people see it as a very transactional business. You know, 2 days, 1 year, India territory, apparel category. And I hated that part of the business. My approach over there was always also storytelling driven. Yeah, anyway, मेरे पास director है, producer है, creative है, star है, vehicles है, ये पूरा बनाते ना. So which is why like the Ching's campaign will be, मैं लिखता भी हूँ, produce भी करता हूँ, director ले आता हूँ, गाने बनाता हूँ. So all of that came together really nicely. And then the actors also learned to trust my instinct on saying, ये picture मत करना, या फिर ये picture कर. So I think just that you build over a period of time. For the operational side, you've got a team that will sort this shit out. And I think even on the client side, the fact that I could wear an objective hat and say, otherwise what happens is in talent agencies also, no matter what the problem is, solution, आप chewing gum बेच रहे हो या चड्डी, प्रियंका चोपड़ा. अरे ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है. I'll say नहीं, हमारे पास नहीं है. This is not the right person for this. You can pay me a lot of money, but it will not make sense. I don't have that. I'll put you onto someone. So I think clients also, and on the fact that I could also give them greater value, and no talent agency was doing that. So I'll give you another example of that, like Anushka Sharma. You know, so Anushka, we signed on for Canon cameras. So what we did at that stage is all the advertising we wrote. We got someone internally to produce that, to direct that. One of our directors, because I had a portfolio of directors signed with us. You know, so ad bande. Tabhi we were doing a film called 𝗘𝗅-𝗖𝗘𝗢, Yashji's last film, Yash Chopra's last film, and she was playing a news reporter for Discovery. So she's going to be using a lot of cameras. I said, camera Canon bana denge. So wo aa gaya. Three, her social media I was handling. She was going on a vacation to watch a Coldplay concert, photo album. The whole social feed will be on Canon camera. So wo aa gaya. So that 360 became really, it came together. You know what I'm saying? Now that no one else is able to do. So now a client says, oh fuck, which agency can do this? Which talent agency? No one. Which ad agency? No one. Because they can't think only like this. So and now for an artist, the sum of the parts is much bigger than the whole. It's no longer a 30-second ad which you got paid for 1 year. इसका अलग ले लो, social का अलग ले लो, ये ले लो, ये अब मिल के आ गया. And then you also had greater joy in creating a package which is very powerful. So I think just that, and I think just that filter, like knowing that being profitable gives you the privilege to be creative. I think वो फर्क जानना बहुत जरूरी है. ये commercial art है, ये fine art नहीं है. Poetry लिखनी है, painting करना है, घर बैठ खुद कर, अपने पैसों में कर. ये किसी और का, ये माल बेचना है, या कुछ. You have to move people to action. So I think that minute that happened on talent management, and that talent sat on both sides, the celebrity and the client. They're both talent. So संभालो आप.
So from shows to actors to writing and producing films, how did the movies like मुझसे friendship करोगे और मेरे dad की मारुति come about? How did the idea of producing films come about?
It's always been on my bucket list यार इधर. मतलब हमेशा कहना एक दिन पिक्चर बनाऊंगा. तो वो हमेशा से था यार. So I always wanted to do that. And after I think 12 years at MTV doing reality shows and all of that, मेरे लाइफ में बहुत reality थी. और reality नहीं चाहिए मुझे लाइफ में. You know? So I was going to set up a movie studio, MTV Films, in Vancouver. So I created a business plan, and Aditya Chopra was very fond of me. So I mean, I'd done a lot of promotional work for their films, Hum Tum, Dhoom, etc. So at one stage, when they were planning to launch a TV channel, he was planning on reaching out to me to launch that, to work on that, and then this truck called Recession had hit, और वो channel launch ही नहीं हुआ, and it became an output deal with Sony. You know, when they did all these shows, Powder, 𝗔𝗍𝗵, Seven, etc.
Yeah.
So I was always on his radar. But I think so when I created this business plan, I thought, यार picture film studio का plan है, I must pressure test it with the right folks. So I thought I'll reach out to him and say, sir, suno na, am I doing something okay or is it like fucking ganja? You know, so I dropped him a text. In 30 seconds, he replied saying, come today at 7:30. I was like, fuck, great. I went. So I already had a plan. I was looking at making a ton of things, a few films, and set up a studio in back home. I was already shifting out of the MTV mandate into the youth film mandate.
Yeah.
I opened my snazzy presentation, business plan, projections to take it to. I said, देखता हूँ, रुक. And Adi's like, अच्छा, तुझे picture बनानी है? हाँ, मुझे भी बनानी है. So अच्छा, if you want to do digital, would you rather do it at Google or would you rather do it in the Google department of Pepsi or the digital department of Pepsi? I said, of course, fucking Google, no, digital सीखना किधर सीखने का? तो उसने तो picture बनानी है, यहाँ बनाएगा? तो like, हाँ? Is the Pope Catholic? Is the sky blue? Fuck yes. Yeah, I'd love to do it. So, I said, great. So tell me what you want to do. So, but, you know, we didn't close immediately. We got talking because I want to make sure that my definition of youth films is not, you know, different. Like if, and I'm saying this with no disrespect, that if his definition of youth films was relaunch Uday Chopra, I would have died. वो नहीं होता ना. So I said, let me just pitch you. So he said, हाँ, तू tension मत ले. And I had that, and that's why he liked me. I was among the few people who could say no to. कि नहीं, ये नहीं चलेगा. ये बकवास है. ये कोई नहीं दिख रहा. You know, I'll help you promote it, but no one gives a fuck about it. You know, so like, and that's what he liked about me, because otherwise the industry is full of suck-ups. You know, so I'm not that guy. So I said, चलो, मैं बताता हूँ मुझे क्या बनाना. So ले आ, तू कहानी ले. So I like had created a bunch of these pilot ideas and concept notes and dummy posters. So I took those and he looked at a few, and my reference point was this lovely writer-director called John Hughes. He was my blueprint. He's the guy who did Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink. I love his work. You know, he's the guy who wrote Home Alone, Baby's Day Out. Incredible storyteller. So that was my master plan, blueprint. So next time I met Adi, I noticed उनकी दीवार पे Breakfast Club का poster है. और when Harry Met Sally का poster, I said, I'm perfect. Aligned. ये philosophy, same, कोई tension नहीं है. So then I took him through those 3 to 6 ideas. Out of those 6, he said, ये 3 तो इतने घटिया ideas हैं कि मैं तो नहीं बनाऊंगा, तू भी मत बना, तो मर जाएगा. I said, अच्छा ठीक है, चलो हटाओ. So those 3 I like. First one I will make. The second one and the third one need development. Let's park that, but let's develop it. First one, let's go. And that's where we kind of took hands and said, चलो बना. तो लव का दिया मुझसे friendship करोगे actually came from that first batch of ideas. मेरे डैड की मारुति came out of जुगाड़. Because हेतल क्या होता है, जब पैसे नहीं होते ना तो जुगाड़ होता है. और हम हमेशा गरीब लोग रहे हैं. MTV में भी पैसे नहीं थे और लोगों को लगता है यशराज फिल्म्स पैसे. No, I was Y Films. So I was the indie studio inside the mothership ना. तो वहां भी पैसे नहीं थे. So I said, okay. And that idea for that film had come from a scene in another film. You know, I told you about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Lovely film. I love that film. It's one of my top 5 films of all time. You know? So उसमें एक scene है कि एक लड़का अपने दोस्त, अमीर दोस्त के बाप की गाड़ी घुमाने ले जाता है. And something happens. So I said, and there was a scene like that. So I said, ये तो picture है यार. We've all done this. बाप का स्कूटर लेके निकल गए, रात को बताया नहीं, whatever. थुक गई गाड़ी. Shit, we've done that. ये picture है. So I said, इसको picture बना. So I pulled out that scene and I pushed it to someone saying, इसको develop. तो ये develop हुई मेरे डैड की गड्डी. फिर हुई मेरे डैड की Mercedes को aspirational बना रहे. मैं said, हाँ यार, ये तो picture में गाड़ी है. And Adi will not give me this much money to make it. मैं पैसे ले आता हूँ. तो वो आदत थी. Roadies anyway funded by Hero Honda. I'm used to that. पैसा कैसे उठाते? तो कैसे करके, and value, not just goes out for the heck of it, like this part is brought to you, right? So I said, chalo. So I spoke to Mercedes, they gave me money. They said, we'll give you X amount of cash. And I think I committed 1.5 crores in cars. I said, but lalach, 1.5 crore में picture नहीं बनेगी, और ले आते. I spoke to a couple of others. Volkswagen, committed money. But मेरे dad की Volkswagen would be damn fuck all. You know, I said, नहीं. So I said, okay, मेरे पापा की Polo. तो ये हो गया. And they said, we can't give you more money, but I'll get you a car guy, and I'll get you a music system guy, and a engine oil guy. सब मिला के आपको 3 crore. I said, अच्छा है, और ट्राई करते. शेवी, मेरे डैड की शेवी आ गई. And Chevy and gang were used to doing some branded content overseas. So they were damn keen, and last minute they fucked me over. The deal fell through. So yeah, and then finally I said, last shot. Maruti I said, kahan yaar, government, etc. nahi hoega ye PSU. Undertaking will take forever. Fuck, they moved like a rocket. In a week, I had the largest offer. You know, so suddenly it became like a kick-ass deal that the whole film is funded. Most people don't know that. So Maruti's paid for the whole film. So any rupee that comes out of box office is profit. So Adi was like, fuck, ye kaise kiya? I said, pata nahi sir, ho gaya. Subah mein mere liye bhi kar, do it on our other films. I said, haan chalo, ye bhi karte. So that shit happened. So I think that's how Mere Dad Ki Maruti happened. And I love the idea. It was just the story of this one harami bachcha who sneaks out his father's car to impress the college hottie and then loses the car. What happens next? So I just love the idea. They said, isko paka. I think that's how that film happened. I think that's how some of these things, you know, open up, and then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just, I love that film. So proud of it.
But comedy as a genre requires far more courage to produce.
Yeah, man. It's the hardest. It's very tough. It's far easier to make someone cry. It's damn difficult. You know, and I can see why humor is back in such a big way, you know, Hital. And I've noticed this especially after the pandemic. Because just see the narrative. Look at this generation. And they call it the anxious generation, right? I think, I mean, this is a generation which has seen 2 wars. This is a generation which has seen a pandemic. This is a generation which has seen so many retrenchments and layouts. This is a generation that's every day waking up to social media feeds which are telling you how inadequate you are and how someone's life is better. It's waking up every morning to a narrative which says, AI tumhari le lega. Tumhari naukri to gayi.
Aur kuch nahi to AI.
You know, so it's humor has become a coping mechanism for the entire generation. So that's why there are ads for fintech, which are like, what? Is this an MTV promo or is this, oh fuck, this is great. What the fuck do they do? I still don't know. But in this category, life insurance has Akshay Kumar dressed as Ravan. What the fuck is up? So there's all of that. You're talking about death. And there's Ramraj saying, Lele insurance lag jayegi. You know, so there's all of that going on, right? So there's humor which has become a tool for a ton of folks. It's much harder. You know, like stand-up comedy space is something that's exploded. I mean, it always existed with those mimicry shows and Johnny Lever and you know, Cyrus Brocha. But it's suddenly become so large. You see the kind of money these kids are making, it's fucking bonkers. Right? So,
But the whole democratization of comedy with all these stand-up comedy shows, has it made it more difficult for a slapstick comedy movie to come out?
For everything, in general for comedy, because it's much harder, right? Because also what happens is, you know, I think jo edge jo thi, ab base ho jata hai. So you'll have to be far more edgier to pop. I think, so everything suddenly like, sab wo karte na fir. So abhi, aur wo template ho gayi hai. हर कोई ओरी के साथ कोई अतरंगी कोलैबोरेशन कर रहा है, हर कोई समय रैना के साथ that same gag is kind of looping. अच्छा ये अरेस्ट हो गया, इसको ले आओ, इसके साथ कुछ करते हैं, वायरल रील बनाते हैं. So you'll have to, and people tend to, and it's not about slapstick. I think slapstick is the lowest common denominator of comedy. India is very line driven in terms of humor, not physical. You know, it's very punchline driven, not situational comedy. What used to be the case with 𝗘𝗍𝗵 Mukherjee, 𝗵𝗁 Bhattacharya, what moved to that very physical Laurel and Hardy, Tom and Jerry. It's very punchline driven, very like, you know, Sajid Wajid, those one-liner gags.
Dialogue has to have the weight. The situation
punchline will land, you know, and stand-up comedy works on that premise, no?
Yeah,
you know, of
that's true.
Joke aaya, ye aaya, to wo hai. So yes, but absolutely it's harder. But I think the stuff that works is still stuff that's rooted a lot more in. I think the reason why Zakir is so successful, Zakir Khan, is because it comes from a space of him, Varun Grover. It comes from a space of lived experiences of. It's not just the standard gags and cuss words.
The content with the speaker, right? It doesn't look
absolutely. And not just cuss word driven. That's very lazy writing, you know. So I think Javed साहब ने बड़ी अच्छी बात कही थी इधर कि, you know, like खाना जब ब्लैंड होता है ना, तब मिर्ची की जरूरत इसीलिए पड़ती है, तो स्वाद नहीं है. तो जब आपकी मटेरियल में दम नहीं है ना, तब गाली आती है. And it's so true. That's a crutch. You know, so I think just recognizing that, but just absolutely, I mean, it is the hardest genre to crack. I mean, com and rom-com, that's even harder. Because you already know the ending, na? ये लड़का लड़की साथ में आने वाले हैं. तुम्हें पता है how it ends. How do you make that journey? And I love that space. That's fully my zone. You know, slice of life, romantic comedy. I've done a ton of those. Like I've written, produced, directed a ton of rom-coms, etc. I love that space. I think it's because it's so real. It's so fucking pure. So I really like that. So, but it's again the hardest of differentiating the characters, of the music. All of those things play a very big part.
So TV shows, talent stars, movies. How did books happen? How did you end up being an author? People were like, Ashish, you?
यार यार दो टाइप के लोग होते हैं हेतल. एक जो जो वो रोते रहते हैं ना, प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं है, वो नहीं, और दूसरे जो सॉल्व करते हैं. I always like to be in that other side. So you write the book that you want to read.
Yeah.
So I think both the books came out of that. Like there are two types of narratives in the autism neurodiversity community. एक is very academic, theoretical textbook like that, वो किसी को सुनना नहीं है. At the top of our conversation, you told me that. Remember? It's true. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
And the second narrative in neurodiversity is very like tragedy. हमारी तो लग गई, बर्बाद हो गए, अंधी माँ, विधवा बहन, violin, like waves lashing rocks, Arijit Singh का गाना बज रहा है पीछे.
Yeah.
No. So I was like, let me write the book that I want to read. So that's why I wrote that first children's book, which introduces kids and adults to autism. So I said, and I wrote it just for fun because I wanted to write it. And then I spent the money and said, let me get an artist. So it's unlike any traditional children's book, which is usually 24 pages, 40 pages. This is a 120 page coffee table size, big ass, 120 hand drawn illustrations. It's gorgeous, which I wrote because I don't want to do it for myself. So when I illustrate karwa di, I wrote it in 4 days, but we illustrated it over 1 year.
Wow.
And it was ready. And then I want to make sure it has nuances, it has details. So then I went to folks, say I live in this universe of autism and neurodiversity. So I want to make sure it's not at the superficial level. So I went to a bunch of counselors, therapists, special need parents, teachers, people from the community. के पढ़ना ठीक है क्या गड़बड़ की है मैंने, ये गलत तो नहीं लिखा, is it superficial only? So all of them read, and I got double thumbs up and said, fuck, this is great, must publish it. And then someone randomly sent it to 𝗧𝗹𝗻. And 𝗧𝗹𝗻, even the publisher over there, even before she finished reading it, this Friday evening, about 8 p.m. saying, I've just started it, I'm about 20 pages in, I haven't finished it, but I know you're in conversation with someone else, don't go anywhere else, I'm sending you a contract on Monday. So I was like, fuck, this is great. So I did it for fun. So I think, so that came out of that because I wanted to write it. And same thing happened with that second book, which is a little more in my area of work, which is branded content. So I realized that content की दुनिया में ना सिर्फ digital marketing को so over-index. Social media, अबे कितने carousel बनाओगे तुम? क्या करो Instagram carousel का अभी एक और? So it was just SEO optimization. It was just that shit. And the same old 𝗘𝗍 case studies also on the content side of Coke Studio, BMW Films, Red Bull. But there are so many incredible examples even in India. So from the Amul hoardings to Sibaka Binaka Geetmala to Bonvita quiz contest to a ton of things that I had worked on. Roadies, Six Pack, Merit Maruti. They're all branded content things, right? And there is no kitab on that.
Yeah.
Strangely, there's nothing like it on long form branded content. So I said, chalo yaar, nahi likh deta hu. Because see, I've been teaching that in business schools and doing these workshops for clients, and so I had a lot of material, and I was in one of those long stay holidays at Goa. So I said, chalo yaar, likhte hain. So I again started writing just for fun. That let me put down all those case studies I have. Let me put a structure, because most people here don't even know how to brief people. Okay, brief kaise likhte? Most creators don't know how to pitch an idea.
Yeah.
So I said, let me just create chapters. It just kind of started writing itself, So how to brief, how to plan, how to budget, how to evaluate, how to sell. And I wanted to make it very practical. So then I've also kind of spoke to 5-6 people from the industry across different perspectives. So a client, तूने क्यों green light किया? So the MD of Capital Foods, Ching's, कि आपने क्यों किया? I mean, it takes some serious balls to commission an idea like that,
Yeah.
So him, I went to the agency head at Unilever who commissioned Six Pack. Okay, how did you help sell it? How did you convince them? How did you measure it? Or how did you negotiate it or structure it? So agency perspective, a strat perspective, 𝗍 𝗍 at that time. I went to a couple of creators. I went to 𝗍𝗵𝗱, which was doing long form branded content. I went to 𝗬𝗏𝗏, who was doing all the scred work and lens cut. He used to be a writer for me in MTV. So I know him from those days. I went to Ashiish V, who was doing short form branded content. I said, ये सब लगा. So ये सब फिर मैंने बनाया और and see, I have a 3-book deal with 𝗧𝗹𝗻, but I mean they're lovely. I had a lovely experience with them, etc. But I said पूरा marketing मैं ही कर रहा हूँ, तो ये खुद करके देखते. So the second book I did a self-publish format because it was fully in my zone. कि marketing मैंने ही करनी है, तो मैं ही कर लेता हूँ. So then that's why I said, chalo, let me just write it and let me. So both the books kind of came out of. I think I would say they came out of that, and I think some of these are also, some of these stories are like very bad analogy. They're like a Dakar. they can't stay inside you. कि इतना खाया, इतना पचाया है, तो अब ऐसा निकालना पड़ेगा ना, loudly, स्वाद के साथ. Sorry, I know it's a terrible analogy. It could have been worse. I could have said fart. But, but why fart and waste it when you can burp and taste it? So I think it was like that. So that's how I think I wrote those books. And I think वो भी ना कि यार a published author. And it's also like वो शेर के मुंह खून लग गया. तो एक लिखी तो I said, fuck, let me write one more. It was fun. And both are very, very different. One is a children's book, one is a marketing book. Fun.
So this is a tough one. Being a dad of an autistic child has obviously taught you a lot about autism, and that reflects in your writing and in your state. What else has this taught you which you would have never anticipated?
I think it's fundamentally, I would say, altered me as a person. Not just made me a better father. I think it's made me a better person. I think I'm a lot more patient. I think I'm a lot more empathetic. I'm able to see humor in the small things. I think I'm able to zoom into a lot of detail. So I think एक simple funda है कि entertainment जो होता है ना, Hether, is what gives you width. Which is what movies, music, web series.
Gives you power, right?
It gives you width. But this layer of meaning, which is what this gives you depth. I think there's a reason why Raju Hirani's work at times, like, it really resonates with me at least.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. It's not khaya, popcorn khaya, bhul gaye. Ye picture rahegi aapke saath. I think when you add that layer of meaning is where it anchors that story much deeper inside. The entertainment is the packaging, and I think that's fundamentally also changed the way I think how education will be delivered in the future. I hope people see that. Versus, I think that's what being an autism dad, probably being in this world, kind of helped shape the kind of stories or the kind of content. It's always been there instinctively, which is why the transgender band, or which is why, like that, the sex education story, Pappu and Papa, it all came from there. But I think they're not a TED talk. They're really fun, entertaining web series, movies, etc. But all of them have there's a layer of a theme. It's not a speech, it's not a sermon, but it leaves you with something more than a smile. कुछ वो bonus है, entertainment primary है, but ये कुछ और एक layer है, which is there. I'm not called you in for a message delivery. उसके लिए मैं FedEx courier service इस्तेमाल करूँगा. But एक वो है उसमें. आपको मिला और आपका interpretation अलग होगा, but उसकी वजह से वो रहेगा आपके साथ.
And how did the Bombay to Bangalore transition happen? I mean,
I'm not in Bangalore. I'm in Bombay.
No. WTF with Nitin Kamath is quite standout from what all that you've done so far. So
not really,
back to the story in terms of how did it all come about.
No, see, so this is a 1 year consulting gig. I've been here almost a year. I'll wrap up now, actually. So this is Nikhil Kamath, not Nitin Kamath.
Nikhil Kamath, sorry.
So this is his media content vertical, right? So it started with him as a side hustle, wanting to meet interesting people, have interesting conversations, which is the WTF podcast, which is stellar. I mean, the kind of people he's able to talk to, the kind of conversations he's able to have. And all credit to him and the team, which does that, pretty much. But my mandate essentially was to just help set up a content system, to set up a pipeline to be able to do more than just one podcast. So be it setting up a process to build a community, be it setting up a process to get a full stack creative solutions engine, which happened as a process of acquiring a couple of agencies that we've done, like social media, brand identity design, be it for group companies or be it for other clients that we pick up, or early investments of Nitin and Nikhil Kamath, or offering services, or the whole the CSR or side of entrepreneurship, what we do with the WTF fund, with young entrepreneurs. So I think my mandate was to essentially help set up like a process or a system, which is what I've done. So, but it's still in the world of media content, not broking, trading, which is not a world that I understand very well. But the fundamentals of content creation, that building a high performance team, that shit I know half decently. So that's essentially the mandate. That's how that happened.
Yeah. So in the media world, the short attention span is talked about a lot. Do you think it's a reality, or if there is genuinely good content, it's a non-issue?
ये झूठ है यार. ये बकवास है. ये पता नहीं किसने आपको लोगों को there's this crazy statistic that does the round ना. Attention span less than that of a goldfish. Goldfish का 7 सेकंड है, आपका 6 सेकंड है. पर रमेश है. So it's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. It's never about the length. It's about the strength of the content. I mean, look at it. The most successful film in Bollywood of all time, Dhurandhar, is a 3.5 hour film. These are people who will binge watch an entire season of Family Man for 14 hours straight, or Squid Game. These are people who will game non-stop for 32 hours without a susu break. So I think if you're able to tell stories that are relatable, surprising, well told, you will hold on to an audience not just for a few hours, you will hold on to them for life. आप ऑडियंस के वक्त की इज्जत रखोगे, वो आपकी इज्जत रखेगा. तो ये attention span ये बकवास है. I don't buy that. And see, bulk of the content work, I don't work in the 30-second TVC space at all. The last ad I did, Agent Ching Attacks, with Atlee, Ranveer, Bobby, Srilila, is 8.5 minutes. It's nuts.
Across 3 decades in the media industry, what are a couple of things which have remained true for you and will remain true? I mean, something which is time immemorial, something which will not fail, despite, this AI Jing Bang coming or whatever coming.
And this applies across formats, Hether, चाहे वो ad हो, picture हो, गाना हो, web series हो. If you're faking it, na, पकड़े जाओ.
Yeah.
Audience knows. If you're not being honest. If you're not having fun on set, it will not show on screen. If you're not enjoying the process, the reader, the listener, the viewer will not. Storytelling basically, it's like, I think what's the right phrase? It's an emotional energy transfer. वो है. तो like, there's material that जब मैं लिखता हूँ या फिर कुछ चीजें मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ, मैं फूट के रोता हूँ. My wife is like embarrassed in a movie, like, क्या कर रहा है तू? Like, I can't help it. But she's just an actor, she's not dead. I'm like, oh, but why did she die? Like shit like that, right? So, like, even in a book, like, I'm laughing out loud at night. She's like, what's wrong with you? I'm trying to sleep. It's like, I can't help it. Go out. But I think that's the shit. That's when you know you're onto something special. I think, and if you're able to create that, if you're able to create that, not just for yourself, for a group that is trying to tell that story, is when that will not. आपको पता चल जाएगा ये कुछ बन रहा है स्पेशल, तब वो जाएगा ट्रांसफर होगा यार. नहीं तो नहीं होगा. आप ये कर रहे हो AI generated slop. Who gives a fuck? I think that's a fundamental, which I would say that's one core fundamental. I mean,
you have hope of humanity surviving against AI?
Of course, yeah. See, my default now is optimism. That is my superpower. I think वो चीज ने मुझे आज तक जिंदा रखा है. ये क्या ही हो जाएगा? I mean, I call it stupidity or call it whatever. Courage or 𝗬𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗶, like we said. But I absolutely, man. I think I always believe in अच्छाई जीतती है. कई बार बहुत वक्त लगता है. तो वो है. Of course, there's enough. और यार लाइफ में बहुत दर्द है यार. दुनिया में बहुत दर्द है और sadness है. The internet is full of that shit. That so-called narrative of you put a picture of a baby, people say इसको काटते हैं. You put a picture of a cat and say इसको खाते हैं. It's like, what the deal with the world? Fuck that shit. I'm saying you have to stay. My wife, of course, like I said, is a chartered accountant. So she's the exact opposite. Okay. It's like, अरे तू इसलिए मरता है. This is why people take advantage of you. Be it at work, be it at, not in a personal life. And she's right. And it's okay. Like she thinks it's a flaw, I think it's a feature. So I truly believe that. That's what you put out is what you get back.
इंसान होना पाप है तो वो पाप मैं करूंगा.
हाँ जज साहब मैं पापी हूँ. No, बिल्कुल यार. So I absolutely, man. बिल्कुल.
Yeah. What's coming up for you?
Well, I've got a couple of the fun things in the pipeline. I'm doing a fun game show. So that's what's cooking. That I'm excited about. And there's some interesting work which I'm doing across a couple of clients, which I'm excited about. So there's some of that. And I think some of these things, I'm a little, you don't want to dissipate the energy by talking about it until you're done. But there's a couple of those pieces which, on the work front, like a game show, and a couple of other things which I'm excited about. So ek wo hai. And some fun stuff with Rishan, my son, which is the reason to live. Essentially, that's what's in the pipeline. So I'm excited about that.
If you're not what you were, what is the serious most profession you would be in?
I can't think of it here. I have no fucking idea. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know what मैं क्या करता. I would be a fucker. No, man. I think I'd be, no matter where I was.
That you were like a rocket scientist sitting in NASA.
Fuck, man. मतलब बर्बाद हो जाते लोग. If there was life on Mars, they would leave that place and say, fuck, ये आ रहा है. निकलो यहाँ से. No, I mean, no matter where I was, I'd probably be telling stories. I think that's, I don't think I know how to do anything else better. Never thought about it and I don't want to. So, Jeez, what a fucking scary thought. Then to think I almost became a chartered accountant. Can you imagine? Fuck. That would have been nuts. Barbad ho jata main. Like, like Amrish Puri, 𝗬𝗏, it's that kind of thing. So no. None of that, man. Fuck, I can't think of.
Random top 3 most impressive movies that impressed you most?
There are a bunch of those, man. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I spoke about that. It's I love not those, I think some of these the films that kind of impact you or the things that influence you the most are not those big things. It's like आप Taj Mahal देखते हो ना, so you look at it and say, wow, maybe you take a picture and then you walk off. But when you go to someone's house and you see like maybe decor or maybe a Lego block creation, you think, यार ये मैं कर सकता था, ये मैं कर सकता हूँ. If I thought of it was मैं ये कर लेता. I think that's the shit that shifts you, moves you, influences you. I think Ferris Bueller, for example, that's why it works. And that's why I actually did that, right? So a scene from there became a film, like मेरे डैड की मारुति. So I love the film because it's such a simple film. It's about a kid who wants to bunk school for one day. And everything that he does to bunk school that day. That's the film. And the philosophy is simple, that, life moves pretty fast.
Yeah.
If once in a while you don't slow down and look around, it'll pass you by. That's the thought. Fucking beautiful. Yeah. But it's delivered in such a fun way. It's a kid trying to bunk school. अब वो अपने प्रिंसिपल को बेवकूफ बना रहा है, मम्मी पापा को बोल रहा है मैं बीमार हूँ, खांस रहा है, झूठ बोल. It's fucking incredible. But at the heart of it is a beautiful theme. So that, I love it because of that. So I really, really like, I would say that one really kind of spoke to me. I loved 𝗬𝗵𝗵𝗀.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely fucking love it.
𝗷𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗵𝗁.
Absolutely. Fuck. It's, my God, I'm such a fucking fan. And I saw it at a very young age when I don't think the understanding of this humor, dark humor, satire,
either of us knew corruption at that time and what the kind of crap they were trying to do.
And I think just the quality of writing, the inside jokes, the stupidity of some of the characters, there's a fucking dead body doing the rounds. There's the detailing on that. Like the fact that, the two characters are named after Vidhu Vinod Chopra and Sudhir Mishra. Vinod and Sudhir. By the way, Vidhu Vinod Chopra and Sudhir Mishra are both in the film. Huh? They have cameos in the film. So as crazy walk-in parts and the dialogues on the film. Fucking incredible. So I just loved that. The detailing on it, the kind of talent that's come together on one film. It is unfucking believable. I mean, they made it for some ridiculous 8.5 lakh rupees. Yeah, I think just the caliber of talent that came together, the quality of writing, the level of detailing on small nuances, gags behind gags, the light, all of that. So I think that's something that fundamentally, that's also a lot of my approach on. I put a lot of detail into every frame. So when you go back to it, it's like Mad Magazine. जब आप पढ़ते हो पता है आपको पीछे भी एक फ्रेम में गैग है, पीछे जो पोस्टर है उसमें एक जोक है. So I think I've approached all my films, all my writing, all the MTV promos, if you see, they make for repeat viewing and it subliminally hits you with that level of detail, with the music, with each of those things which add up, So I would say that one. 3, I loved 𝗓𝗪𝗓 Redemption. I think it's just
powerful, very powerful. Yeah.
Incredibly. And I would say like a close tie. Our tie over there is also a very different film, it's a genre that I love, which is rom-com. I love When Harry Met Sally. I think it's one of my all-time favorite. Just incredible writing, and I love Billy Crystal, and I love the writing, and I love, how it just upended the rom-com genre, because you saw not the usual good-looking, Tom Cruise, Hugh Grant, Richard Gere, Julia Roberts. You saw a very nerdy, stupid guy who was an asshole.
Yeah.
And you saw a very geeky girl, and it's not a traditional love story, and it was so fucking real, and it just some of the elements of the writing, and I loved that. I think these are 3-4 films which influenced a lot of my storytelling styles or processes, etc.
One movie which you would have loved to make yourself?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I made it.
Huh?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I made it. मेरे डैड की मारुति. और क्या है? मतलब in the rom-com space, I'm very proud of मुझसे friendship करो. I wrote that film besides producing it. It was so ahead of its time that time when it came out, against the backdrop of social media and Facebook, and not being yourself, of putting a mask and all of that. That's what the film is about, right? A fake profile to impress the other person, and you find out that this person is also faking it. And just that whole narrative of, how can an emoji or a smiley capture how you really feel? It can't. It can't be the same as someone smiling across the room. So all of those pieces, I just thought, I think those kind of films which I think I could have made, no? Like, again, like I said, the stuff that influences you is the stuff that you think, like when I watched 𝗏𝗏𝗏, when I watched anything 𝗑𝗔𝗓𝗔's done, and I've set up a bunch of 𝗑𝗔𝗓𝗔's films for Ranveer.
Yeah.
Chahe wo Ramleela ho, Padmavat ho, Bajirao ho, those are deals I've done for Ranveer.
Right. Yeah.
But wo filme, it's like War and Peace, 𝗬𝗀𝗍𝗍. आप पढ़ते हो, impress हो जाते हो, भूल जाते हो. Versus like 𝗑𝗏𝗓𝗔, that vision is just so large that like I can't think like this. But when I see something Raju does, like अबे छोटा मुंह बड़ी बात, but like when I see something like a Three Idiots or मुन्ना भाई, लगे रहो मुन्ना भाई, those are things like fuck, I could have done this. ये अगर मैंने पहले सोचा होता ना, तो ये मैं करता. That's the stuff that stays with you. Like I would have loved to do लगे रहो. I thought such a beautiful idea that Gandhigiri, fucking well. I thought the adaptation on Three Idiots from the book is also not bad. Chetan Bhagat's 5.1. It's actually not bad at all. For all the hate that Chetan gets, I think clearly the guy knows something which others don't to crack so many bestsellers, right? So I think it's actually a good book. But I think Three Idiots also kind of adapted that so well. So I really like that, some of the nuances that Raju's brought in. So I think these are a couple of films which I would have, they're my zone. Unlike, say, maybe like Sholay, I don't think I can make. Dhurandhar, I definitely can't make. Bajirao Mastani, मैं नहीं बना सकता. लगे रहो शायद मैं बना लूं. Three Idiots, I think मैं बना लूंगा. Again, like I said, छोटा मुंह बड़ी बात, but I would have loved to have just been around, been a fly on the wall. That's the stuff that I would have loved.
Okay, this is a tough one. What is the one question that you would have always wanted to be asked?
I don't know.
Something that you're wanting to tell, but it's you never got a platform to share.
I mean, I've been fortunate to have had a chance to have a couple of these conversations recently, or not necessarily on a platform or that kind of space, but I don't think enough people, like men as fathers, have enough conversation. I think so just fatherhood, autism and fatherhood are spaces which are a world in itself. So maybe just about early stage, how to work through that if someone were, like if I had to talk to someone saying, bhai, abhi diagnosis hua hai, and your role as a father, whether as a autism dad or as a dad, I think just some of it, like I said, no, rear view में vision 2020 होता है, तो ये चीजें आप थोड़े पिट के सीखते हो कि आप मेरी धुलाई हुई थी तब किसी और को let me give them my playbook of like don't fuck this up, bro. I think something in that space probably about if you're starting out as a dad, because there's no यार कोई fatherhood के कोई user manual नहीं आती ना. We're all fucking winging it. There is no unboxing video that you get to watch. I know how to set this up. नहीं मालूम. And inevitably you're like, oh fuck, I'm fucking up, and you are, and it's okay. So I think just that conversation with probably men, new dads, and new dads who maybe experienced early diagnosis, like fuck what to do. It's a very tough time. It's a really like a head fuck. Okay? इतना confusion होता है, इतना fear होता है, इतना guilt होता है, इतना shame होता है कि ये क्या हो रहा है, अब मैं क्या ही करूं. So I think just that about just being able to maybe tell someone that it's okay, breathe, you're going to be fine. Mama सब ठीक कर देगा. That, and I think self-care is not a luxury here. वो बहुत I think I use this example with someone about aircraft में भी बोलते हैं ना यार, दूसरों की सहायता करने से पहले अपना ऑक्सीजन मास्क लगा तो जरूरी है, तो वो तो करो. And men don't do that. What I'm saying? So I think just kind of doing that, I think that's a very important, that self-care is very important. I think just being able to share that, you're not being selfish. It's actually the most selfless thing that you can do. If you take care of yourself, only then will you be able to. You can't pour from an empty glass. So आप अपने आप को ये करोगे नहीं तो I think that is probably, if at all.
Now comes the favorite part. What's the question you have for me?
I mean, I love the fact that you're doing this, Helthal, and not enough people talk about this. At times, you find a lot of work which is in the entrepreneurship space, in the business space. And I know this comes from a place which is very, very close to your heart, from dad, and from obviously a very rich experience of all that he did, etc. But what has been your, I would say, most courageous moment, and what can someone else probably take away from there to be able to apply instantly of my life?
This has been said before, but I did my first and so far the only Ironman with a broken wrist. This was July 31st, 2022, my last full bike ride, training bike ride. and the event was 14th August, and I planned to bike 100 kilometers. So typically I would go out of the city. On the way back, it was 96. So I had to just do 4 kilometers within the city. And within the city, there are traffic signals. So I was approaching this signal and it was red. But, typical laziness, I didn't want to like stop at the signal. So I was just going slow, so that by the time I approached the signal, it would turn green. It didn't happen. And I was wearing cleats. So my shoes were stuck with the pedal, and sudden jerk, I couldn't stop, and I fell with my left hand, and got up. Some people came and said, are you okay? I did feel some pain. I can't describe how bad the pain was. Anyway, I had to take the bike to the bike shop to get it packed up, and that was the last ride. So I took it to the bike shop, literally dragged it all the way to the bike shop and gave it there, and I said, boss, get this done. Came back home, had lunch, showered, had lunch. I had my PhD class from 2:30 to 5:30. And during that PhD class, I was still having the pain. And I was like, I don't know, kya karu. So I messaged my ortho, I messaged my physio, कि भैया ये हुआ है. So both of them said, send me a snapshot of how your wrist looks like. Physio said, do some ice pack. So faculty से break लेके मैं गया, ice pack लिया, and I was ice packing. The ortho said, get an X-ray done. So same day evening, I go and get an X-ray done. Fortunately for me, the ortho there himself was a cyclist. So he looked at it, he said, boss, fracture hai. मैंने कहा, तो क्या हुआ? Fracture है तो क्या हुआ? कहते, you're going to wear a cast. I said, okay, how many days I have to wear a cast? He said, 6 weeks. I said, dude, I have an Ironman coming up in 2 weeks, and I've been training for the last 2 months. How do you think I'll do an Ironman? कहता, no, you can't do an Ironman. Who says you can do an Ironman now? I said, nahi boss, nahi chalega. So because he was a cyclist, he understood this pagalpan, and I'm not going to listen. He said, okay, when do you fly? I said, after 8 days, I'm going to fly. He says, I'm going to give you a cast now. After 8 days, come back. We'll take out the cast. I'll give you a splint. I'm not going to do an X-ray again because I know your fracture is not going to heal in 8 days. I'm going to give you a splint. When you swim, you take out the splint. And after that, for the bike and the run, wear the splint. It'll give you whatever support you want. I said, okay. Next 1 week, I was in the gym doing my weight training with a cast, and I get the splint, put up, reach Kazakhstan. I went, fixed up the bike, and I had to do a trial ride. The previous day when I was doing the trial ride, I could feel the pain in my wrist despite the splint. I said, dekha jayega kya hoga. So on the day of the event, swim is the first. I swam so my target for swim was 140, and it took me 2 hours, 3 minutes. So because my drag on the water was obviously weak because of the fracture. And I came out somehow. The transition time was 2:20. So 2 hours, 20 minutes, I had to be on the bike. 2:17, I got on my bike. So barely missed getting disqualified there. Got on the bike. I had not only had the splint, I had even kept a crepe bandage, because cycle पे हाथ रखने में splint might be awkward. We'll try it out. तो मैंने दोनों को जैकेट में रखा. मैंने कहा आगे जाके पहन लूंगा. 180 kilometers cycling. I did it in 6 hours and 56 minutes, whereas my target was 7:30. But the most amusing part, I never wore a splint nor wore a bandage, and I cycled painless. And I got off the bike, got onto the run, finished the Ironman in exactly 15 hours when my target was roughly around 16 and a half hours, going by the kind of readiness I had. Whole night, I mean, the Ironman finished at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I didn't feel any pain in my hand at all. The next day morning, I wake up, bahut dukh raha hai. So I think pain is in the mind. I believe that regardless of whatever pain, whether आपकी अंगूठी टूट जाए, या आपकी टांग टूट जाए, या आपका दिमाग टूट जाए, pain is a state of mind. And a lot of people don't realize that. The moment you realize it's a state of mind, and a state of mind is ephemeral. It's here today, gone tomorrow, might come back day after. It all depends on whether you let it in or not. So I think that remains one of the most amazing part that I love to talk about, that I had a wrist fracture. I had pain. The pain was gone because I had the whole junoon was, okay, I need to do this Ironman. दो महीने गधों समान training करिए, इसको तो निकालना ही है types. So failure was not an option. Not going was not an option. I got there. In fact, I got famous. हाँ, तुम वही थे ना जो cast पहन के आए थे. Yeah.
Dude, that's bonkers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy ass story, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so beautifully put, yeah. That it's a state of mind. चाहे क्या, हाथ टूटे या दिल टूटे, I think वो जाएगा. आएगा भी, जाएगा भी. But ठीक है.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ashish. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, man. Likewise, brother. Very fun with this.
And हंसते रहो, मुस्कुराते रहो और ऐसे ही बढ़िया कंटेंट बनाते रहो.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot, man.
Talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.